So welcome to lesson 20. How much fun have we had? And this one is called, What Have You Forbesed Lately? Yeah, you know you've made it when your name becomes a verb. Or at least in the dictionary. I can't wait to see that. Maybe on Wikipedia. All right, so here's the deal. Do you have your journal? Have you been journaling? Actively following, writing, dreaming, building, and making money? If you haven't, now is the time to decide to do that. I've got a little assignment for you right now. Take out your pen, go get your journal. I want you to write down 10 people who are in business in your world that you admire. Doesn't matter. You know them, you have some sort of relationship with them, and they're doing business. Whether they're a hair salon, your doctor, your vet, a personal friend, your spouse, write down 10 names, and I'm going to show you in the next lesson how you make $500. I guarantee that you would do that, right? So don't let me down. You got to practice all the things that you've learned. My advice, honestly, once you've got this course, maybe you go back through some of your favorite lessons just as a refresher. Every morning, I listen to something motivational. I listen to Les Brown or Tony Robbins or Forbes Riley. I have some of my favorite speeches I re-listen to. Listen to something that motivates you in the morning to get your engine going. By the way, I'm assuming that your question has changed. Yes. I'm assuming that you now know how to shake somebody's hand, that you've got your business in place, that you're really invested in you. I'm assuming you have a manifestation board. Do the steps to make the dream come true, okay? Deal? I'll tell you a little story. When I first started speaking, I had no idea I had anything to say. I know you've listened to 20 lessons. Apparently, I now have a lot to say. But when I started, I was an actress, and I would say other people's words. And I would look at great speakers, and I was just in awe. Man, one day I'd like to do that, but how is that even possible? Okay, but I set out my sights. I said, I'm going to be on a stage. I future-paced, and I believed. I saw myself standing on a stage in front of thousands of people, motivating them. But at that moment, truthfully, I had no idea what I was going to talk about. I just had a feeling that I was going to be there. I manifested all of this. Okay? Now listen to this. But the first speech that I gave, I was in Useppa Island in Florida. And I didn't understand the mechanics of a speech. Well, at that moment, I had not yet invested in speaker coaching. You know, I teach another course called Crush It on Camera. How do I communicate with the camera? I spent my whole life talking to a camera. I've got some techniques. I study with people like Les Brown and amazing speakers to understand what does it take to stand on a stage and speak. I talk to amazing people like Billy Mays, who's no longer with us, but an amazing infomercial artist. How do you do this? Find the mentor. Enroll in a class and a course. You've got to do that. Why would you invent the wheel when it's already been invented? Use what people have done and make it better, make it your own. But you got to have the skills. You cannot play Carnegie Hall if you don't take piano lessons, just because you want to. And by the way, piano lessons sound a lot like doing scales over and over, doing the basics over and over. So there I am giving one of my very first speeches. And I started to talk about my life. I started to tell people how I got a Broadway show with Christopher Reeve, how I ended up creating the X Games with Stuart Scott. I wasn't even qualified to have that job. How I worked for Westwood One Off the Record and interviewed Sting, Foreigner, Journey, Clapton. I told these amazing backdoor stories. I didn't have a philosophy. I didn't have a system back then. I do now. You've heard a lot of this system. But I'm just talking, and people are mesmerized. I'm so excited. I finished with my speech, and my crew, the guys who were helping me, said, hey, come here. What was that you just did? I said, I gave a speech. They said, yeah, no. No, speeches have messages and meaning and action. You told great stories. I said, yeah, but everyone was so engaged and so involved, and they loved it. And they said, yeah, but we're just going to work on the speech-telling part, which, by the way, I think I've now perfected. Well, you tell me. Next morning, there is a raffle, right? And there's 150 women at Useppa Island, and there's this one beautiful necklace sitting in the middle. It's got a very odd shape to it. And the woman next to me is going on and on about how beautiful the necklace is, how it looks like the neckline for her daughter's wedding dress. And I'm thinking, lady, don't get so excited. There's 150 people in the room. You have a 1 in 150 chance. Odds are, and I didn't really say this to her, but I felt kind of bad. They start the raffle. Bam! They call her name. She looks at me and says, ha! I Forbesed it. You what? She Forbesed it. Huh. You know what that means? That means to manifest something, especially when no one else thinks it's possible. Yeah, so maybe you started this course and said, wait, Forbes offered $500 and you get instant cash. If you've done everything I've said, you've already made money. You've already reached out to me. You're part of my tribe. You understand that just by mentioning this course to people, you can make money and get checks. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, isn't it? So what have you Forbes'd lately? Get out your pen and your journal and answer that question for me. I have a whole book called The Forbes Factor. Forbes Factor is a 3-day course that I teach, and it is a transformational, amazing experience. If you love what you've got for here, Forbes Factor is not about me, it's about you. And I'll tell you what, when you go from where you are to where you want to be, what an amazing journey. It's actually called a fulfilling life. It's called success. That's what I push people to do. So that's Forbes Factor. We then, out of my first group that we did Forbes Factor with, I had them write their own chapters. And at the end of it, each one said, what have you Forbes'd lately? Maybe you Forbes'd a relationship. Maybe you Forbes'd instant cash flow. Maybe you Forbes'd a relationship with a celebrity. Maybe you Forbes'd living your dream. Maybe you Forbes'd having a baby. Maybe you Forbes'd, I don't know, I just want to hear. I want you to tell me in an email, in a social media post, in a Facebook or an Instagram, what have you Forbes'd lately? What did you create that maybe nobody thought you could? Maybe you built that business, got that degree, got that certification, jumped off a bridge. I don't care. People said you couldn't do it, and yet you did it anyway. That's what drives me. That's what keeps me motivated. What have you Forbes'd lately? We've got one more lesson to go, and then, man, just tune in. That's all I can say.